Hello guys, I'm back with the T, and today we're going to be talking about whether ARM will save our Malaysian tech companies. Now, as you can see from the slides over here, there's this meme that I created. It kind of depicted what is happening with the tech value chain.
Too busy to find stock ideas? Check out Fire Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off link in the comments and description.
So right now, the government's main focus is to help to build more valuable tech companies which cater to the IC design space, or to put it in more specifically, is at the front end side instead of the back end of the value chain. So that's why you can see that they are putting a lot of money, or they are pouring a lot of resources into this IC design. Previously, they also gave some sort of like a money, or 25 billion on their NSS project. It is basically to encourage companies to actually move up the value chain, and also for the OSAT companies to improve whatever research and development that they have, in order for them to go up the chain to do advanced packaging, which require a lot of capital expenditure. But so far, the government, after they just gave them a 25 billion, or they just proposed a 25 billion spending, basically it became a negligence already. Whereas you see at the downside over here, the government didn't really talk a lot about EMS or even ATE. So in general, all of these tech companies, they do have some sort of tax incentive. So they don't really pay upfront 24% tax rate like other manufacturing companies. So they have some sort of these pioneer status, which allows them to pay very minimal tax rate to even zero tax. But in general, the only resources that the government currently is pouring in fund is basically the IC design, and also for the OSAT companies. So if you've been following the news, Anwar mentioned that he's going to do a 1.1 billion partnership with UK's ARM Holding. So basically, the ARM Holding will be collecting royalties on the chip sold. But there is not much of a details on the partnership. But there is 3 key goals that Anwar wants to achieve from this partnership. So number one is that he wants to develop 10,000 integrated circuit design engineers. Number 2, he wants to give access to Malaysian companies on ARM's cutting-edge technology and also some of their IP portfolio. And number 3, it is to develop locally designed semiconductor products. And also they did mention that they want to manufacture their own AI chip, which is basically they are trying to say that they want to compete with NVIDIA, AMD, and other AI chip makers. So it's a very, very optimistic goal. However, it's not. It's so far it seems like it's planned over the next 7 to 8 years starting from now. So we shall see whether they have the ability to compete with such the top players. Okay, so if you guys didn't know what is ARM's value chain, right? So the Edge, if you read the article, they actually explain it quite clearly using the house analogy. So ARM, sorry, there's a not an S, it's just ARM. ARM Holding is basically the architect. They gave the design, they show you what is need to be put inside the IC. Number 2, NVIDIA is basically the property developer. So they are the brains. They are the one that come out with the layout plan and how the building is going to be built, in which location, and etc. And last but not least, they will hire TSMC, who is actually a contractor, who is the guy that is actually assembling, manufacturing all of the silicon wafer, manufacturing the chips to NVIDIA. So yeah, just using this building house analogy, you can kind of understand where this ARM's value chain is at and how Malaysia is going to benefit. So basically, they are just going to get a lot of these design ideas from ARM, which can help those IC design guys, for example, like Opstar or Key ASIC. And hopefully, with their latest IP portfolio and also their technology, Opstar, Key ASIC, and maybe even Skychip can actually improve more in terms of their product and services that can cater to the rest of the world. So yeah, you can see that the aftermath after the announcement of this partnership on the 5th of March, actually the partnership was disclosed. Opstar and also Key ASIC went up quite a lot. For Opstar, it bumped up 33% to 34%. I believe there was a point in time where it went up to about 40%. Key ASIC, this one, it is still like bumping around like 12% to 0% ish. This one, they didn't really benefit much on this kind of news, but Opstar, there's a lot of interest going on. However, you need to know that the reality that is happening with Opstar and Key ASIC is that the IC design space is a very a tough business. They have to incur a lot of high operating costs. And also, if let's say they lose a contract, it essentially would destroy their gross margin, their profit margin, and everything. So for them to actually generate revenue on a consistent basis is actually very key for them to stay afloat. And hence, if you can see, Opsa also did mention that inside their quarterlies, they say because there is lesser demand for their service and also there is a high operating cost, that's why they are incurring a loss making at that particular quarter. Whereas for Key ASIC, this one generally has been loss making for the longest time. So yeah, it's a pretty tough industry to be in. So besides the ARMS partnership, we also need to take a look at some of these tech news which is related to the US probing on NVIDIA chip that's illegally being shipped from Singapore to China. So you can see that we first talked about this on the 31st of January 2025 when the news was announced. Basically, the US got suspect that Singapore is secretly sending NVIDIA's AI chip to China via their basically one of these international companies. They basically bypass it. However, NVIDIA insisted that the customer complied with the laws. They didn't do that. And if you guys didn't know, Singapore accounts for 20% of NVIDIA's revenue. And then we have the latest news, which is on the 3rd of March 2025. Singapore probes potential fraud in NVIDIA AI chip shipment. So basically, there's a few key directors or who got arrested. And basically, they are going through this investigation to see whether these fraud in terms of shipment is true or not. It's becoming a very serious case, and US, it is, they are focusing more on Singapore because Singapore is basically some sort of like a trading platform for China to purchase the US NVIDIA chip over there. They cannot really buy NVIDIA chip directly from the US. They only can buy those very inferior chip, not the latest one like the H1000 or H100. So yeah, so far it is still in the investigation phase. And also there is rumor that say that Malaysia also has been helping. It has been shipping some of the products to Singapore and then Singapore to China. So right now we are also part of this investigation. You can see that who are the guys or the directors that got arrested is basically the Aperia and Exim, who is working with the data center deal. Basically, they are trying to get out of it before the Aperia legal woes, which is related to this illegal shipment to China. And the aftermath is most of these companies that is related to the AI or data center basically tumble a lot. NationGate, year to date, they went down to almost 50%. As of today's recording, the share price went down even further to about 1 ringgit and 15 cents. So that's another like a 15% downfall. So in total, probably you can say it's about 55 to 60% down in year to date. PIE is down half or so, 50%. SNS network, it is down 42%, but you notice that on the 5th of March, there's a small little rebound over here. And that actually have to do with this partnership that they are going to be doing with NVIDIA. Basically, they are launching the first fully managed AI cloud service. So if you guys didn't know, basically what SNS is going to help NVIDIA is they are going to distribute or rent out their GPUs to companies that want to have their own AI cloud system in Malaysia, because the GPUs is very expensive to own it. So another way to own these GPUs or to enjoy or consume it, it is through renting. And this is where SNS Network will be helping NVIDIA to do this kind of rental program. So yeah, that's why there's some sort of like a slight rebound over here. It's not very big. This is a very tiny rebound only because of this positive news. So the final thoughts that we have over here is that our government is very positive that they can develop their own AI chip, or they, so to speak, they say made by Malaysia AI chip by 2032. So whether this will come into fruition, we have to monitor whether they have the capability to do that in the first place. One thing is that they have to develop a lot of good engineers that have the expertise to develop AI chip. They have to make use of ARMS design as well in order for them to really execute it well. And number 3, they need to have the resources and money also to pour in the production line, because I believe in order to have one production line in the advanced packaging space, they need to spend about roughly 300 million a line. This is according to one of the Inari's research house. So it's a very expensive production line, very capital intensive. So Malaysia needs to have all these 3 in order to realize their goal. So number 2 over here, we have a past or precedent case, which is Silterra. And basically, Silterra, if you look at DNEX's latest quarterly reports, they didn't really do so well. And right now, I believe they are stuck around 90 to 180 nanometer chips, which is still very far away from the TSMC. TSMC right now, they are manufacturing, or their goal is to manufacture 2 nanometer, whereas China's SMIC, they are going to be manufacturing 7 nanometer, and probably it's going to be smaller and smaller. So for Malaysia to play the catch-up game, it's going to be very tough, and not many people is going to buy very, very large nanometer, which is 90 to 180 nanometer. So that's why you notice that Silterra also has not been doing so well for the past few quarterlies. They're actually in the loss making at the moment. Some of them even are reported. I think one of the quarterlies, the latest one, they reported loss in revenue in their tech space, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, it's a tough business inside this tech industry, especially for Malaysia tech companies, because we don't really spend a lot in R&D. And also we don't retain our engineers well. A lot of these smart engineers all fly all around the overseas, right? They all go to Singapore, they all go to US in order to work with the best companies. So far, we have some sort of like a brain drain situation. And you can see that our tech space also, they are trying to like push the STEM program, which is to cultivate and train more engineers. But there is not so much of an interest as compared it was before, because of obviously the pay is not so good. The salary pay for engineers are not so good. And I also believe in our discussion with our research team, basically we say that engineers are not really that well respected also. So that's why there is not a lot of people who's going into this kind of space, which is another challenge for Malaysia to actually try to find a solution for it. But yeah, whether our arms or whether our AI chip will become like Silterra, I would say there is a high chance, there's a high possibility. But assuming they manage to execute, hey, then great. Malaysia tech companies will become relevant in the space. The third point over here is Malaysia's reputation. Now, this have to do with the US current investigation with this Singapore and also this executive director from Aperia. So assuming that they did find some fraudulent shipment that is inside Singapore, and also if it's related to Malaysia, right, it will definitely negatively impact our name, and also it would definitely reduce business when dealing with the US, especially for Nvidia. That's why you notice that companies like NationGate is tumbled down quite a lot. It's because this is a very serious case. We are basically under their tier 2 category. Tier 2 meaning to say is that we are like kind of like an orange flag companies that is helping the US, quote unquote, US enemy, which is China. So yeah, this one right now, all we can do is just monitor and see what is the investigation, how is it going to turn out like, and whether NationGate will be cleared from this, because the management of NationGate has also trying to basically say that they didn't do any fraudulent stuff. They are basically innocent in this case. But we shall see. Assuming if let's say they are in fact not helping China to buy more of these AI chip, then probably all of these news are overblown. Probably this price will be at the attractive price. But then it's still a risk right now. And also, based on our discussion with our research team, NVIDIA is currently looking for other OEM partners other than just NationGate. So that also will be another risk for the company. Now, the last point over here, whether the tech will come back, this is definitely a positive news. At least our government is spending some sort of resources in terms of research and development, and it will definitely bring in a lot of technical know-how to improve our tech companies' capabilities. And not to mention, our tech companies can leverage on these arms holdings without spending a lot of R&D. So all they need to do is just spend on the manpower, and probably they also need to upgrade their production line. So yeah, I think this one is going to be short-term pain for the time being, because the tech companies may need to spend a lot of money and time in order to bump up the value chain. Yeah, so it's gonna take quite a while for our tech companies to make a huge comeback. But yeah, assuming let's say the valuation is at a very, very depressed level, that also could be an opportunity to actually buy or enter a position. But so far, just a disclaimer, we don't really own any tech companies other than some of the companies that is related to the front end. And probably you know what companies is that already. So that's about it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoy. And this is the Fire Pro's performance so far. So good. We are making about 41.9% on the Fire Pro Malaysia portfolio. Fire Pro Global also managed to double its return to 5.55%, and the boring portfolio, it is hanging there at around 9%. So what are these three portfolios? Is basically where we share our best idea for the Malaysia scene, and also we share our best idea for the global scene. And last but not least, if you are a dividend and conservative investor, then you definitely want to check out the boring portfolio, because that is where we talk about companies that pay dividends on a consistent basis, and best of all, they are growing. So you can see these are the names and also the individual performance. If you want to know what sort of companies that is deriving such a high dividend yield, you can check it out all inside the Fire Pro program. And you also notice that some of these companies have not really paid a lot of dividends. So yeah, probably next few quarter you see that the numbers will start to change. But if you want to get a taste, you want to see how we do our write-ups, you can check out our free sample. Over there, we posted 2 companies for you to read. We also posted one of our SIB videos on modes. So if you want to learn about modes, over there, it is also inside a free sample. And last but not least, we also shared our management notes, 3 management modes inside there. So if you want to see how we do our recordings when we meet management, what sort of information do we get, some of the information is not even publicly available. So yeah, all of these good stuff are inside the Fire free sample. And if you want to get the entire information, it will be inside Fire Pro, and you can get a 10% off using the link in the description and comments. So with that said, we see you guys in the next video.